In the Christian Bible, it says the following in the book of Hebrews, chapter 9, verse 22. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything be cleansed with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Is forgiveness only received through the shedding of blood? In the Tanakh, we read the following in Numbers chapter 14, verses 19 through 20, which says, "Please forgive the iniquity of this nation in accordance with your abounding kindness, as you have borne this people from Egypt until now." And the Lord said, "I have forgiven them in accordance with your word." Here we see that God forgave people without any shedding of blood. It's important to review what the penalty for sinning against the Creator is. The first example we have of the penalty for sin is Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, which reads, "But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for on the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die." Psalm 101, verse 8 says, "Betimes I cut down all the wicked of the earth, to cut down from the city of Jehovah all workers of violence." So we see that death is the penalty that sin brings about. This is important to realize that death must come about for sin to be forgiven. There are many examples in the Tanakh of forgiveness being granted without any death. So what's the deal? One section that illustrates this is Leviticus chapter 16, verse 17, which reads, "And no man shall be in the tent of meeting when he comes to effect atonement in the holy, until he comes out, and he shall effect atonement for himself, for his household, and for all the congregation of Israel." Here it says how atonement was made, and then in verses 21 through 22 it says, "And Aaron shall lean both of his hands upon the live he-goat's head, and confess upon it all the willful transgressions of the children of Israel, all their rebellions, and all their unintentional sins, and he shall place them on the he-goat's head, and send it off into the desert with a timely man. The he-goat shall thus carry upon himself all their sins to a precipitous land, and he shall send off the he-goat into the desert." So when the Israelites sinned, they would make personal confession, offer animal sacrifices for themselves, have the high priest offer an animal sacrifice, and then have their sins placed upon a goat to depart off into the desert. So we see that even though atonement was made, the penalty for sin was never actually satisfied. In Psalm chapter 51, verse 18, it reads, "For you do not wish a sacrifice, or I should give it. You do not desire a burnt offering." Here we see how the Creator does not wish to have sacrifices, yet He is the one who commanded for them to be done daily. For anyone who does not believe God commanded sacrifices, read Exodus chapter 29, verses 36 through 39. So the question is, why did the Creator have the sacrificial system set up as He did? These offerings pointed to an offering that the Creator would make on behalf of man. This offering is described in Isaiah chapter 53, verses 10 through 11, which says, "And Jehovah wished to crush him. He made him ill. If Jehovah makes his soul a guilt offering, he shall see children. He shall prolong his days, and Jehovah's purpose shall prosper in his hand. From the toil of his soul he would see. He would be satisfied. With his knowledge my righteous servant would justify many, and their iniquities he would bear." Many years later, this anointed servant, known as Yeshua, or Jesus, arrived, who would justify many with his knowledge. The question is, what knowledge is this speaking of? Jesus knew and taught the following: "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." This is what is spoken of in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 11, which reads, "My servant would vindicate the just for many, and their iniquities he would bear." Those who will trust that God brought redemption through his anointed servant will be justified in God's sight, as Abraham was by trusting what God had told him. Genesis chapter 15 verse 6 says, "He believed Jehovah, and he credited it to him as righteousness." This may seem at odds with verses such as Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 31, which reads, "And they have built the high places of Topheth, which are in the valley of Ben Hinnom, to burn their sons and daughters with fire, which I did not ordain, neither did it enter my mind." The reason this human sacrifice was repulsive to God is because it accomplished nothing, though the sacrifice